Hey guys, Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you, and it's time again for a most carried video. So this is a video where I just share with you what's been in my pocket the most often, and I'm going to have a supplemental discussion as well, because I realized as I was going through these that there's a fair number of high-end knives in this video, and that's not always the way, but I do want to have a conversation with you about, you know, knife budget and knife priorities and how all that works, okay? So I want to have that conversation sort of at the end, so I'd look for you to weigh in on that when we get there. The other thing I want to point out is I've got this Olight, what is this one? The S1R baton. This is the one with the charging station on the back that clips in magnetically. Really great little light, and this guy has been in my pocket a lot. The last month or so, it's pretty much my exclusive EDC light, and I just wanted to demonstrate, or just wanted to point out to you that I don't carry my lights the same way that I carry my knives. And I wanted to ask you guys that question. Do you rotate through other things in your EDC, or is it just knives that you rotate? Or maybe you don't rotate at all. Maybe you carry one knife for 2, 6, 8 months and then finally switch to another one. So I'd love to hear down in the comments below how you do that. Now let's go ahead and get to some knives. And I've got a fair number for you. The first two kind of share a theme. So let's get these two out here together. These two are knives that I have had in one way, shape, or form for a long time. This is actually one of the earlier knives I bought. I think I've even had this longer than my Para 2, or than any Para 2. And this guy, I've had a Recon 1, I sold it and bought this one. So these two knives have been back in my pocket quite a bit lately, and I think it's because of the time of year. So it's been summer and I've been doing a lot of hiking and outdoors activities with the kids, and it's getting ready to be hunting season, so that's going to kind of continue. And these knives I find work really well for that. When I'm going on a hike or I'm going out into the bush, me and my son have a little fort that we kind of work on once in a while out there. I would bring a knife like this and nothing else. And I just find these are super versatile. They can do most anything I need to do out in the bush. The other thing I may bring along is like a hatchet or a small axe, but then I'll have, and then this and nothing. And I just find these knives work really well in that role. And so wanted to start off with these two because they really capture something about what I like about an EDC knife, and that is versatility. These two, if I've got one of these in my pocket, I feel like I can just pretty much deal with anything that I could possibly have to deal with, whether it's cutting up carrots for stew, or making feather sticks, or even doing some light batoning to make kindling. These will do all of that and have no problem with it. So these guys have been in my pocket quite a bit just because of the activities that I've been engaging in, and I think that'll continue because as I get out to the bush doing some hunting, these are both well suited to that as well. Maybe not so much to skinning, but hunting for sure. Next up, and I'm doing these two at a time to save a little bit of time for the discussion at the end. Next up though, I've got a couple of Rake knives, and these guys I've been carrying largely for review, but also because they're pretty nice. Now this one, the styling is not right in my wheelhouse. I don't love everything about the angles and the triangles cut into here. However, from a construction standpoint and from a performance standpoint, this thing is really, really well done. And so I've been really enjoying carrying this, and it's a pretty budget-friendly knife, but it has roller bearings, which is great. Really like those roller bearings, and I've got to say that Rake is doing a good job with coming in with some budget knives that have some really nice performance features that really put them sort of a step ahead of a lot of budget knives that are out there. And this guy is the same thing. Now it's not roller bearings, it's just standard ball bearings, but a really, really nicely done knife. It's a stainless steel frame lock, but it's pretty heavily milled out to save on some of that weight. 14C28N blade steel, really nice, useful blade shape. This is, you know, for a budget knife, and I'm not sure how budget they are. I think they might go for between $50 and $70. And at that price point though, I think this is a great, great knife, and really, really, you know, it gives you a lot of that refinement and quality that you look for in a more expensive knife, but it's budget friendly enough and the materials are hardy enough that you really don't have to worry about it. You can, you know, you can throw this in your pocket, and I have when I'm going to work for a day, you know, on a construction site, or doing something that could break or lose a knife. Hey, I'll pull this guy out, and you don't have to feel bad about putting it through some pretty heavy use. One last knife, and this, the review for this is probably recently posted. I recorded it a few days ago, and I think it's scheduled to post sometime right around now. So these two videos will be close together. But this is the Liang Ma Nuke. And I got this when it was with the special promotion that he did. And I've actually really liked this. There are a lot of features that I like about this. I like the Moonglow inserts. I like the detent ramp. I like the blade shape. It's a blade shape that I think is pretty interesting and different, but still very functional. My one big dislike is going to be the blade coating. I wish this was satin. I feel like it would tie in so nicely with these really well done satin hardware. But anyway, this guy's been in the pocket quite a bit too, and it's a little heavy for that. So I won't probably carry it as much now that the review's done, but really nice little knife to carry around. Now, let's get into some of the higher stuff and into that discussion that goes along with that. So I've got a couple of knives here that, actually let's do this one and this one. These are knives that are kind of, you know, a step above high-end production. You know, this is a full custom, this is a mid-tech. Both great knives, and these guys have been in my pocket a lot. These are such well done cutting tools that it's hard to go a day. You know, the day that I carry this knife all day, probably when I get home, I'll put this in the drawer and I'll switch it out for one of these two and carry that for the evening. So a part of every day I end up carrying one of the knives that are sort of in this higher end group. And even those days I don't carry these knives, I will often spend just you know, I'll run up to my room for some errand where my knife rack is, and I'll take these off and kind of flip them and take a look at them, maybe snap a picture for Instagram. So these guys spend a lot of time in my pocket. This of course is the Curtis F3 Large. Just a wonderful, wonderful hard use knife. This one is not so hard use, it's a little more EDC friendly, but such great quality. And of course, the handle being customized exactly to the way I wanted it really adds to the level of sort of love and appreciation that I have for this particular knife, as does the really, really cool shape. I just think this is a great, great knife. Total win from Olamic. So both of these guys have been in my pocket quite a bit. And I'm going to bring them back in a second for the discussion I want to have because of the contrast you may have noticed. Here is a couple of more knives. There we go. We've got the XM18 and the Steelcraft Bodega. Again, knives that I absolutely enjoy. And they're sitting there right beside the ones that I just showed you. And these guys, again, are knives that end up going in my pocket an awful lot. Got to give some credit to the XM18. Did some traveling with the kids over the summer, and this was the knife I often took when we were traveling. I'd usually bring, you know, 2 or 3 knives, but this would always be among that group because I just feel like it's so versatile, and there's a lot I can get done with this knife, and it just feels good having, you know, a knife of this capability. Again, here's another knife that I just love. I carry it an awful lot. It's a little big for certain tasks, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice, and I absolutely love the finishes on this knife, that beautiful hand-rubbed satin, and the exceptional detail work on that titanium is really, really impressive. And I get a ton of joy just from sort of looking at this knife. And when this is in your pocket, you know, it's such a great knife. So both of these, again, have been with me an awful lot. Now, I want to have a little discussion, and I'm going to bring this knife in to make this point. This, of course, is new, so I haven't been able to carry it that much, but I'm sure this will be in a lot of these videos because it's just so well suited to EDC. But I want to bring this in, and I want to bring this guy back in. Let's fold them so I can fit more knives on in the frame here. Where's the Curtis? We'll fit him back in as well. So, recently my knife collection has changed a little bit. I guess not that recently, over the last year or so. I have a lower number of knives. I'm probably sitting between 40 and 50 knives rather than 50 to 70. And the reason is that a lot of these knives represent multiple of my knives that are more like this. Okay, so you know, you sell 2 or 3 of these to finance this, you know, one of these. And I want to ask you guys that question. How do you, you know, balance your collection? Do you stay away from higher end knives altogether? Do you try to balance it? I really do. You know, I don't go buy more knives if I'm not kind of getting rid of some, so that I don't end up, you know, with this massive collection that I, you know, have no room for and don't really get to use and enjoy on a regular basis. So you know, I don't have a Crooked River, which is a knife I absolutely love, because I sold the Crooked River and a couple other things to finance one of these. All right. And to me, that's a trade-off that I'm more than willing to make. Does that mean I dislike the Crooked River? No, I love it. And I probably will add a Crooked River back into my collection. Same with, you know, a 0562 and a few other knives that we could talk about. But do I regret not having it? Do I regret trading that off for something like this? No, I absolutely do not. Okay, I don't regret that for a second. I absolutely love these knives, and I feel like they have an important place in my collection and on the channel, because it means that I've experienced some knives like this. So when I talk about a knife like this and I say, hey, the action is really good or it's not that great, I'm comparing it not just with other budget knives, I'm comparing it with some of the best knives that are out there. And so that's my take on that whole balance. You know, I'm more than happy to sell 2 pair of 2s and a Mannix and a, you know, and a Benchmade to finance this knife, right? I have no hesitation doing that. And I want to know if you guys feel the same, or if you say, no, I'd rather have those 4 budget knives and use them instead of, you know, that one higher end knife. There you go, guys. So that's my most carried knives, plus a little discussion about, you know, high end versus, you know, regular production and where I balance that out in my collection. I'd love to hear how you guys do it as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.